This is a Global Skills Podcast, conversations that shape the future of work and learning. We're exploring how we close the skills gap and build a future where everyone has the chance to thrive. From education to business, connecting people, ideas, and opportunities that drive change. It's about collaboration, curiosity, and creating real impact today. Because every skill learned brings us one step closer to a more inclusive world. The Global Skills Podcast, where learning and opportunity come together.
Welcome back to the Global Skills Podcast. I'm Vanessa Wainwright, and today I'm flying solo. Just me, a microphone, and a data set that honestly stopped me in my tracks when I first saw it. Every now and again, you look at some information and you think, well, it's not just interesting, this is actually really important. And I want to talk about it properly, not just in a LinkedIn post or a slide deck, here with you where we can actually dig into what it means. So here's where we're starting today. Andrej Karpathy, if you don't know him, he's one of the most respected AI researchers in the world, former head of AI at Tesla, founding team at OpenAI. He recently published something called the US Job Market Visualizer. It maps 342 occupations from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's 143 million jobs across the entire US economy. And it scores every single one of them on AI exposure, a scale of 0 to 10, asking the question, how much will AI reshape the work? And the number that made me put down my phone and really stare at the sky, $3.7 trillion. That is the annual wage sitting in jobs that score 7 or above on AI exposure. We're going to spend the next while unpacking exactly what that means, and more importantly, what it means for the organizations and the people you're responsible for. But first, a quick word from the sponsor of today's episode. And yes, full transparency, this is also my company, so you'll hear my passion for it. Today's episode is brought to you by Abodu, and specifically by our product Skill Suite. Here's what I love about how we built Skill Suite. It's not heavy implementation, there's no 6-month integration project, no ripping out your existing people systems. It's a light plugin that gives your entire enterprise one global skills language, connecting your hiring, your learning, and your workforce planning. So they're all finally speaking the same language. Because that's the root problem most organizations have. It's not a lack of data, it's a lack of shared language to make sense of it. You can find out more at abodu.com/skill suite. And I'll have a link right below this episode in the show notes. So back to the show. I want to start by giving you proper context for this data, because it is easy to see a big number and react without understanding what's actually being measured. Karpathy built this as a research and visualization tool. He took occupational data directly from the Bureau of Labor Statistics Occupational Outlook Handbook. It's a mouthful, and it's the most comprehensive source of employment data in the US. And he layered an AI exposure score for every occupation. And that score was generated by an LLM using a carefully designed prompt that asked, how much will AI reshape this job? The scoring distinguishes between two types of impact. The first is the direct impact, AI automating tasks currently done by humans. And the second is the indirect impact. So AI making each worker so productive that fewer workers are needed overall. And crucially, and I think this is the piece most commentary gets wrong, a high score does not mean the job disappears. But I'll come back to that in a bit. The scale runs from 0 to 10. 0 to 1 is minimal exposure. That's your roofers, your landscapers, work that's almost entirely physical, hands-on, unpredictable environments. AI is essentially no impact on the daily work. 8 to 10 is very high exposure. That's your software developers, graphic designers, data analysts, paralegals, copywriters. Jobs done almost entirely on a computer where every core task is in a domain where AI is rapidly improving. And the average across all 143 million jobs, 4.9 out of 10. We are, as a workforce, sitting at the midpoint, right in the zone of transformation. Let me walk you through the numbers that actually jumped out to me, because there are a few layers that I think are genuinely underreported. The first layer is volume. 25.2 million jobs score 8 to 10 on AI exposure. That's 18% of the workforce at a very high exposure. Another 34.7 million jobs score 6 to 7. So you're looking at nearly 60 million jobs, almost half the working population, where AI is already meaningfully reshaping the work or will do so in the near term. The second layer, and this is probably the one that really surprised me, when you look at AI exposure by income level, the pattern is the opposite of what most people assume. Jobs paying under $35,000 a year have an average AI exposure score of just 3.4. Low paid work tends to be physical, service-based, hands-on, lower AI exposure. But jobs paying $75,000 to $100,000 a year had an average score of 6. And jobs paying above $100,000 were at 6.7 out of 10. The most AI-exposed workers are your highest earners, your knowledge workers, your managers, your analysts, your strategists, your lawyers, your financial professionals, the people running the business. And that 3.7 trillion figure, that's the annual wage in jobs scoring 7 or above. That isn't low-wage, easily replaceable work. This is the professional backbone of the modern economy. The third layer, bachelor degree holders score an average of 6.7 on AI exposure. And on education for master degree holders scoring 5.7, with doctoral and professional degree holders scoring 5.7 too. And here's the fascinating tension. Jobs requiring no formal degree, there are 66.9 million of them. Those have an average exposure of just 4.1. So the more credentials you hold, the more likely your work is being reshaped by AI. This is a profound inversion of the story most people have been telling for the last decade.
Quick question. Do you actually know what skills exist across your organizations today? Or are decisions still being made on job titles, CVs, and assumptions around who can be reskilled and upskilled? You see, as AI reshapes work and organizations really face that pressure to cut costs, the real challenge isn't just skills gaps. It's understanding which skills are transferable and which can be redeployed into the future with a bit of upskilling. So for the listeners of Global Skills Podcast, Abodu, our sponsor, has created this free Skills AI readiness assessment. It gives leaders clarity in just 3 minutes. It shows skills gaps, automation exposure, and where future-ready capabilities already exist within your business. No data upload, no preparation, just clarity for the future of your organization. Visit abodu.com/global skills podcast. Now, back to the episode.
Now, I want to come back to something because I think this is where the conversation usually goes wrong. When people see this data, the instinct is to ask, which jobs are disappearing? And I understand why. It's the most visceral question, but it's actually the wrong question. Karpathy himself is very clear on this in his own notes and on his data. A software developer scores 9 out of 10. Does that mean the software developers are going away? Almost certainly not. What it means is that one software developer with AI can now do what used to require a team. The work is being restructured. The productivity ceiling is rising. And as each developer becomes dramatically more productive, demand for software, which is already insatiable, could actually grow. The job doesn't disappear, the job transforms. And this is true across virtually every high exposure role. A financial analyst using AI can process more data, model more scenarios, produce better insight faster. A paralegal with AI can review more contracts, catch more issues, serve more clients. A marketeer with AI can produce more content, test more hypotheses, personalize at a scale that was previously impossible. The question isn't who disappears. The question is who develops the skills to work with AI as a genuine force multiplier, and who gets left behind because their organization or the systems around them didn't equip them in time. So, what does this actually mean if you're a HR leader, a chief people officer, a skills strategist, a workforce planner, head of learning? I want to give you 3 things to sit with. The first is this: your workforce data is almost certainly wrong, not because your teams are doing a bad job, but because the systems most organizations rely on were built for a different era. job titles, competency frameworks written 5 years ago, learning catalogs built around credentials that measure what someone studied, not what they can actually do. Performance reviews that describe behavior, not skills. None of these systems were designed to track real-time skills transformation. And if you're making workforce decisions based on them right now, you're navigating a rapidly changing road with a map that was drawn before the train shifted. The second thing is the gap between your highest skills people and your lowest skills people is about to get wider faster. Because when you layer AI on top of an already skilled workforce, you get compounding returns. The best people get dramatically better. And those who aren't equipped to use these tools, or who are in roles that don't provide access to them, or who haven't had the learning support to develop those skills, fall further behind. This is not just a productivity issue, it's an equity issue. And if you care, as I do, about inclusive opportunity and leaving no one behind, this data should feel urgent to you too. The third thing is the opportunity in the growing jobs. Because here's the other side of this data set that I don't want to skip past. 0.2 million jobs in this data have a positive growth outlook. That's the majority. The economy is growing. New roles are being created, and those growing roles aren't growing because people have the right degrees. They're growing because the skills those roles require are in demand, and supply hasn't caught up yet. And the organizations who figure out how to identify those emerging skills, build them intentionally, and connect their people to them, they will have a structural competitive advantage, not for a quarter, for a decade. And this brings me back to Abodu and to Skill Suite, because I want to connect the dots properly. Everything I've described, the scale of exposure, the speed of change, the equity risk, the growth opportunity, it has all the same root cause. Organizations don't have a shared skills language. Hiring speaks one language, learning speaks another, workforce planning speaks a third. And none of them are talking to each other in real time. Skill Suite solves that. And the reason I'm proud of how we built it is that it doesn't require a massive transformation project to get started. It's a light plugin, one global skills language across your enterprise. And you get a live, interoperable view of what skills exist in your organization, where the gaps are, and most importantly, what it's costing you, without needing to overhaul everything you already have. Because the cost of skills gaps is real and it's measurable. And in a world where $3.7 trillion in wages is sitting in roles being actively reshaped by AI, the cost of not knowing is going to compound very quickly. I want to close with something that I think about a lot. This data is American. It covers the US labor market, but the dynamics are global. The AI exposure curve looks similar everywhere. The knowledge workforce everywhere is facing the same acceleration, and organizations face the same choice: get ahead of it or react to it. Andrej Karpathy built this tool to make the data visible, to let people actually see what's happening, not as a prediction, not as a prophecy, but as a signal. And I think that's exactly the right instinct, because the first step to navigating transformation is being able to see it clearly. And if you want to take the first step right now, we've actually put together something I think you'll find genuinely useful. It's called the Skills First System. It's a practical playbook for putting skills intelligence at the operating center of your business. Not theory, a real framework you can pick up and use. And we're making it available for free. You can get the link below the episode going to abodu.com/skillsuite. I'll also link to Andrej Karpathy's visualizer in the show notes so you can explore the data yourself. Or you can go to abodu.com/future-of-jobs. It's genuinely fascinating, and I'd love to hear what numbers jump out at you. But thank you so much for spending this time with me today on the Global Skills Podcast. If this episode resonated, please do share it. The more people that are having this conversation, the better for everyone. Until next time, take care of yourselves and take care of your people.
Whether you're leading a business, shaping education, planning your next career move, or just starting out, you're part of a global conversation about how we learn, work, and grow. If you've enjoyed this episode, tap subscribe so you never miss the latest insights. And if you've a moment, leaving a quick rating really helps people find the show. For early access to new episodes, event invitations, and the chance to connect with others driving real change, join the community at globalskillspodcast.com. The future of skills belongs to all of us. proudly sponsored by Abodu, empowering organisations and educators with world-class skills technology to build a better future for everyone.